Dan Lefebvre is how you pronounce it?
Sure. Yeah, Dan Lefebvre, whatever you want to. Lefebvre. If you want to do the French version, do the French version.
Dan Lefebvre. So you're a coach, and you have a website. And on the website, I've seen that you like the title is International Top Motivation Rich Mindset Coach. And I'd like you to break it down into what that all means for us.
Okay. Actually, if you don't mind, I am rebranding because that's old, but I refer to myself as the Prepare for Success coach.
Yeah.
And it's simply because all the work that I do, I reverse engineer things. That's me. I deconstruct, I break things down, and then I help people see their future and then bridge that gap between present and future. And so I'm constantly helping them prepare. It's like, what can you do? Whatever's in this bubble, that goal, what can you do to build that? So that's more me than what you're seeing there. I know it's there, but,
that's all right. So you bridge, you're a bridge, or you help build a bridge between the vision and today. Is that how you see yourself?
Yeah. Like, what their future self is and what their present self, or, their future goal and their present, right? Because that's the biggest challenge with people, right? They say, oh, I like that, right? And then they're like, how? And then all sorts of limitations and fears and roadblocks and all that. So my task is to help them chunk things down, do little steps, and then finally get to where they need to go.
So who would be your ideal client?
Well, specifically, it's 35 to 45-year-olds, entrepreneurs that have children under 12. You don't have to go into that detail. I really focus on entrepreneurs 35 to 45. The children, if they have them, great. And most do, because 31 years old is the average parent with a newborn today. So they should have children, unless they're not going to have any.
Right? And I'm guessing having family around, it makes them busier and less focused maybe on their goals, and they start to feel the pain, and that's where they start looking for a coach.
Well, it's because they want certain things in their business, but they're getting pulled by their business, pulled by their family, right? And so they don't notice it. And I don't ever sell that, because they don't want that. They want money. They want more business. I'm like, great, we'll do that, right? But then when we start getting down to it, and then I start talking about relationships and health, and I always get their score 1 out of 10. What's your health? What's your relationships? What's your career? That's my the baseline. Yeah. And then when it comes to family and stuff, then I say, oh, well, how are things with your relationship? And they tell me, and then I start giving them little seeds, because I do things with my kids that most parents would never do. We have weekly family meetings. We do gratitudes and affirmations at the end of the day. We've been doing it for years, 8 years now, running. And so little things like this, and then they say, oh, I like that, right? And then I can give it to them, and that's me adding that extra value, which then can help them have better relationships, better health, better career. All three.
Let's stop there. I think there's something interesting there. Can you expand a bit more on some of the rituals you have in your family that are things that other people don't usually do?
Yes. Well, the one thing is the evening routines. It's gratitudes. I call it gratitudes and affirmations. So what happens is my children tell me everything they're grateful for. When they're younger, it could be things like the curtains, the bed, the stuffed animal, whatever, right? But as they grow, then they start becoming more aware. Okay, I'm going to be grateful for the things that matter to me. So then they do that. But then the affirmations is me saying words, they repeat them back. They don't understand the meaning. It doesn't matter. This is like a garden. I'm planting seeds. I keep planting. And then one day they realize, oh, I am impeccable. All right. Didn't know what it mean, but now I know, right? But they believe they're impeccable. Somebody says, hey, you know what? You have an impeccable personality. You're like, yeah, I do. Right? And so, things like that. Like, so it's just these little things and little phrases sometimes. The more I receive, the more I give, the better I live. I can walk and talk and fly. I can do anything I try. Just little, and now I can say, which one of you is going to lead? And the two older ones can lead. The 11-year-old or the 9-year-old can say, they'll start off, they'll say, I love myself, I like myself, whatever. Just,
Can you hear the noise? There's some construction work going upstairs. Can you hear that?
Yeah, there's somebody with a saw or something.
Ah, come on. That's bad luck. That's really bad timing.
Well, let's work with it. I mean, I have a video on my page, and I'm in the guy's shop. He has an auto detailing shop, and you can hear the machines. But you know.
Yeah, that's really. Maybe I can.
It's not too loud. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not that loud.
Okay. Let's try with that, and maybe I'll be able to remove it with a noise level. Maybe it will help. So the other question was around your weekly meetings. You said you have a weekly meeting with your family. What's the agenda there?
The agenda is to determine, I call it family happiness meeting or family happiness score. And so the objective is to find out how happy are they based on what went on during the week. So they might say 8 out of 10. I say, great. Why was it an 8? I have a Google sheet. I record that. And then I repeat it back to them. I say, is that everything? Yeah, good. Okay, we cover that. Great. What would have made it a 10? Then they have to tell me, then that's the thinking comes in. Oh, well, it's 2 points, right? Well, so then they tell me what would have made it 10. Again, I repeat that back to them. And then I also ask, what are they going to commit to doing differently so that they don't come back next week and say, it was an 8 and I didn't get those things I didn't want. And then the last thing is I ask, what did they do as a random act of kindness? And they can respond or anybody can respond. So, but the rules of the meeting are whoever's holding, we have a heart-shaped pillow, who is ever holding that does the talking. Everybody else, except for me, because I'm leading.
Facilitator. Yeah.
They're quiet. So yeah. So if they don't like something, if they say, my brother, because it, didn't hit me or something, I say, what do you want to say to him? Say anything. He can't talk back. Say it, right? And then they get, not in a negative way. They don't go, you jerk, or they're like, no, I don't like it when you hit me. It makes me feel bad and blah, whatever, right? And then so that's the whole point. It's growing. The meeting is growing into different things, but that's where it is right now. Just those 4 pieces, and we go through each family member and do that.
And what are the effects on this meeting on your kids now that you've seen them grow? How old are your kids?
6, 9, and 11.
Okay.
And
what do you see in the 11 years old that you don't see yet in the 6 years old, for example?
Well, he's more aware and more mature, that's for sure. But I don't know that I'm seeing evidence of the work that I've been doing. I don't know how long it takes for that to come out.
Just feel it's right.
Yeah. But I do have to say, though, that they're aware of the family meetings and they're aware of the average score, because I run an average score and I say this week was an 8.2. Our highest was a 9.8, but we're down at 8.2. And they're like, oh, like, why, right? Because the 6-year-old gave it a 5, right? So do you have kids?
Yeah, I have 1 kid.
Okay. How old?
He's 4. So
okay. Yeah.
So
you can start, because we started at age 3. We started at 3.
Oh wow.
And then started building. And then the next one came along. As soon as he hit 3 or 4, he just follows. He's like, whatever my brother's doing. And guess what? They look for me every night. If I'm not near them, they're like, okay, we're ready for gratitudes and affirmations. And that's how it works every night. And they, if I'm away, I call in wherever I am, call in. Okay, ready? Let's do them. Let's go. Right.
Oh, that's awesome to get to that point where it's just a habit and there's no effort into it.
Yeah. And we also do this too. At the end of the day, I also say to them, what's going to make you happy tomorrow? Those are intentions, right? What's going to make you happy tomorrow? 3 things. Go for a bike ride, play cards with you, go play with my friend, whatever, right? And very specific things, right? So, but I get them saying 3 things, and then that's in their head at the end of the day. Of course, that marinates overnight. And
so interesting. Thanks for that. That's, something I might try with my kid.
Yeah. Well, so if you want any tools, or resources, just ask, because I have affirmations like endless, and from people that I respect. A guy I know, really successful real estate business, thousands of agents all over the US. He has been writing them for 2 hours every day for 50 to 60 years.
Wow.
And so he put the affirmation principle to the test. Yeah. So, and I respect him.
Coming from France, I guess, I think the concept of affirmation is not as strong in France than it is in Canada and the US. And so it takes me, it's harder for me to get affirmations. Like I've heard it's a good process and people do it, but personally I haven't tried it, or when I tried, I felt a bit silly. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's a cultural thing or maybe just not my method of doing things. But I can totally see why it works for other people.
Yeah. Well, and I understand. I felt the same way at the beginning, and so did Napoleon Hill, who you really taught all about it, right? But
Yeah.
the thing is, we're talking to ourselves all the time, so we might as well talk to ourselves in a way that's beneficial. And
Yeah.
so if we just keep planting the seed, planting the seed, planting the seed, planting the seed, and the same guy I just told you about, he actually created an app now called Prompter, and it has, I think, 12 affirmations on it. You write them every day, you take a picture of it, send it to them, and then after you've done it for 21 days, they'll send you a new list of affirmations and keep doing it,
Oh,
right? But
interesting
I
idea.
mean, you think about it, but think about it. If a parent tells a child, like let's say they have a daughter, you're beautiful and you're my queen, right? You're my princess. You're beautiful. You're my princess. You're over and over and over. Guess what? They have in their mind, I'm a princess. I'm beautiful. There's no question about it. You can't, and a
Yeah.
child like your age, up until 7 years old, they're not reasoning. They are an open book. You can put anything in. That's our gift, I guess, in a way, right? So
Yeah.
we can put anything we want in. So,
Yeah, it goes both ways. When you get angry, you need to be very careful with what you say.
Yeah, that's the hard part. But if you can manage to put seeds of possibility in, seeds of potential, that's all I'm looking to do. I'm not looking to make them into a celebrity or something, or somebody who's an influencer or anything. It's just I want to give them the greatest potential possible. That's it. And so
yeah, that's the way I see it as well. Like they have their own personality, and all you can do is try to allow them to express that personality, and not be constrained by your own beliefs, and just let them be and grow their strength, and don't worry too much about their weaknesses, maybe.
Yeah, and my kids are homeschooled, by the way, too, so they're here all the time. But that's so we can travel, do whatever we like. So
And so I'm guessing you're working from home as well, yeah?
yeah, well, home, Mauritius, wherever we want to go, like that's the flexibility of homeschooling. Just take your stuff with you.
Yeah.
So, but that's
how long does it take per day to homeschool?
I don't do anything. My wife does it, but she's to prepare them could be an hour or so. But that's not always, because sometimes it's pretty easy. But then them doing the work, different ages, different amounts. So the 6-year-old does like half an hour, 45 minutes. The 9-year-old does maybe an hour or two, and then the 11-year-old does maybe 2 to 3 hours of work, and that's it. So.
Yeah, that's what I have heard from friends who do it as well. 2 to 3 hours is generally the average, which is amazing to think that they probably get a better education and they get to play more as well. So coming back to your career, personal career, you've written a book called "Living the Life of Your Dreams."
Yes.
Can you tell me, like, what is it about? I can imagine, but like the outline maybe of the book.
Well, certainly and by the way, the idea of the book came from some other things I was studying. Plus I went to a live event and I really got inspired, and I just came home and just started writing it. So these were some of the things I've been working through in my life. And I actually wrote a life plan back in 1999. And I found it. I was like, I'm looking at it like, okay, what came true here? Because I haven't looked at this thing, for 20 years, right? But some of the things did, but most didn't. And so it came out of that idea. And I remember asking my clients, what did you want when you started your business? They may be in business for 18 years. And they said, well, I wanted a vacation, or I wanted to travel and experience different food and culture. And I said, are you doing that? No. And I said, well, you're missing something, aren't you? Yeah. What is it? Well, it's a plan for your life, a life plan or a lifestyle plan. So that's where the idea came out of. But I like fusing things together. And I call myself a student of Kaizen. I don't know if you ever heard of that terminology.
Continuous improvement.
Yeah. Consistent, never ending learning, continuous improvement. So I'm always reading, studying, learning audiobooks, books, and I study books. Like I've read books 30, 60 times. And I won't bore you with how I do that, but I do it. I read with somebody every day since 2012. We've been reading books like this, studying one chapter or sections at a time, reading the same ones every day for 30 days, and then switching.
You, wow. Maybe we need to dive into that as well. That's
Yeah.
an interesting way of reading. So,
Yeah.
actually, let's stop there, and then we'll come back to the book. How do you read your books? Can you re-explain?
So we take a book that we really want to study. So now we're reading the 12-week
When you
year.
say we, who's we?
It's myself and one other person, Mark. And
Okay.
Mark and I, we were both taught by Bob Proctor, who is our mentor. He's somebody who's well known in the personal development field, and he was in the book The Secret in the movie, if that made any sense. But anyway, so Bob was our mentor. We were in Los Angeles at a course with him. He was working with us directly, and he put us into groups, and he gave us the section out of Napoleon Hill's Think and Grow Rich, the persistence chapter, and he said, take this booklet, read it every day for 30 days. We said, fine, we'll do it, right? But the odd part was I took the book, I came home, we started reading. 3 days later, I flew to Jamaica. And I remember I'm on the terrace with my laptop, reading, a digital version and swatting mosquitoes. For 2 weeks, I did that. And then I came home. But you know what? We continued. And then we got to the end of that chapter, and then we started going to the next chapter in Think and Grow Rich. And then we kept going. And so we went through that book twice. And then we did some other books. We did Napoleon Hill's Outwitting the Devil. We did Raymond Hollywell. You might not know him. He has a book called Working with the Law. We read The Power of Your Subconscious Mind by Joseph Murphy. And, all these great books that have been around for a long time. And then now we're doing something called the 12-week year, because we want to know about having 12-week plans and structuring it and having personal vision and team vision and teaching that, right? Yeah. So we basically take a chapter. If a chapter is 30 minutes, we'll take a chapter, we'll break it down into 2 pages each. We'll just plan in advance. We'll just mark it, highlight it. And then we get on a call and we'll start off. We read Napoleon Hill's Mastermind principles. He has, I don't know if you know his principles.
Yeah. Oh, I know them. I wouldn't be able to give them by heart, but I've read a lot of his concept around the mastermind, and I've organized mastermind myself.
Yeah. So we start off with his mastermind principles, and we also have a code of honor. There's a book called Team Code of Honor. So we created a code of honor in terms of how we show up for the call, about reading, paying attention, showing up with a positive attitude. And so the code basically is how we communicate. So if Mark is late, I just write text message, code 1. Yeah. So there's no person, it's not personal. It's just, we have codes, you broke one, here it is. Like I'm just telling you, right? No excuses. So anyway, so then we get on, but then we read these 2 pages at it. We just take turns. So today, it's Wednesday. Mark was leading. So he starts. Then I read. And so we just keep switching until we're done. Finish off with, we have T. Harv Eker's Millionaire Mind Declarations too. So we're doing all this programming, right? So that's what we do. We start off with the principles and finish off with declarations. And so then we take turns reading. And then on the 31st day, we get on a Zoom call and we share our experiences as a result of studying this. Because if you think about it, if you like a song, you'll listen to that song over and over and over and over, and maybe even look up the lyrics so you can sing along. That's all we're doing. We just want to know the book in really finite detail. We want to know, I want to know little phrases, comments, principles.
Do you allow for discussion after each daily call?
Not typically. We could, but we don't. We're pretty, pretty strict. We're 30 minutes and we just, we do our thing. If we finish early and we have, I might have something happening because, if you give it something attention, action causes reaction. So if I'm giving something attention, I might say, Mark, we've been studying this, and just the other day, this happened. And they'd be like, oh, that's interesting. And then we share a little dialogue.
How long have you been doing that with Mark?
Since 2012. So yeah, 8 years. We're about 8 years now. So and every day. It's
a very different way to look at, to do. like it goes counter-current. Like right now, you've got companies like Blinkist or Audible that tries to summarize a book so that you can read it in 10 minutes. And you're going the other way, which is like you reread or you take the time to read the same book for 30 days rather than speed reading or all these techniques. And I actually believe that this is the right way of doing it, like to focus on one thing rather than trying to have a breadth of different topics at the same time. Your mind has more time to process, internalize, maybe associate it with your own life as well. So yeah, I can see it can have benefits. And well done for having the discipline. I guess having your buddy helps like keeping each other on track.
Yeah. And we've had other people in the group. Like originally we had 3, and it was a woman named Karen. She dropped out because her father was sick and then died. And then we invited somebody else in. He thought he could go on vacation and drop out and not be there for the calls. We're like, no. We're on calls, but I'm in Mauritius. And I remember 9 o'clock at night, I'm looking for signal, near the window. And I'm on the call, right? Or I'm outside swatting mosquitoes, make sure I have signal. And that's the level of commitment. Because if you think about what commitment is, what is it? It's future accountability, right? So we are committing to things that we know are going to produce results just because of the practice. And so we've disciplined ourselves just to show up and be there and do it. And, if you think about it, I mean, repetition is the master, right? That's the way we learn things. So we're taking that to the, highest level and saying, okay, we're going to do this with the highest commitment and discipline, and read and study and practice and really know this content more than probably anybody else would. Like nobody can say they've read Jack Canfield's Success Principles, 600 pages, 30 times. We can, and I wrote on his page one time that we did that, and people were like, wow. I'm like, yeah, we studied it. We dissected it. We want to deconstruct what this guy knows. Why? Because it's good. It's good stuff. We can put it into practice. We can teach it. It becomes part of us. So I'll actually tell you one of the reasons why I really like doing this. The same guy I told you about earlier, the real estate guy, he gave me Ogmandino's book called The 10 Scrolls.
Yeah. I think you mentioned that on your website.
Yeah. So the 10 scrolls are just little scrolls. They're only 5 minutes or so to read, but the objective is read them 3 times a day for 30 days. So you read them 90 times in a month. Well, guess what? The little phrases in there. I will greet this day with love in my heart. I will multiply my value 100-fold. I could, if I thought about it long enough, I could quote them all because I read them 90 times each. And that was sort of the beginning with the repetition. And then when Bob told us to do this, I'm like, yeah, I'm good with it. I like learning things. I like to really embed myself. And, think about it. If I know the 12-week year so intimately that I can walk around and talk to people and teach it, it's awesome. Like I didn't have to take it and write it down and everything. I've just studied the heck out of it. And I can even remember, I remember parts of books like Joseph Murphy said this phrase in his book. He said, what we think and feel, we create, and we create what we believe. What we think and feel, we create what we believe. I've read it so many times that it's stuck. Right? So.
Nice. So what would you say is the book that influenced you the most?
That's a good one. I'd have to say at the time it was Dr. Joseph Murphy's The Power of Your Subconscious Mind. And because he gives you really strong understanding of how powerful that hard drive is. It's research has shown it's 96-98% of results, behaviors, and actions. It's controlling that much of our lives. So that was really powerful. And then at some point later on, I saw that Michael Phelps studied that book while he was in rehab, applied it to the last Olympics he went to, and we know the results of that. So, right?
So and how did it change the way you do things now? Like, how did it influence your behavior?
Well, it definitely made me really aware that this subconscious mind, this hard drive of our mind, is really powerful. And I mean, it's controlling our heartbeat, our breathing. It it has all the bodily functions that we need to survive. It manages, it's like an operating system. So it really cemented that into my mind. Like, you know what, if I want to be a certain individual, a certain person, or have a certain lifestyle, I have that power, but I have to go through my conscious mind to get there. So I have to actually think, believe, think, create, believe, imagine, use the prefrontal cortex, like I have to do the work to get there, because I didn't learn it in school. My parents didn't know it, couldn't teach it to me. So I learned parts of that from the book, like, and it gave me that belief that, you know what, I can do anything I want. I can be anything I want. It's just going to take some time, because whatever I put in here, this is an information system. It just takes time to get out into the physical world. I put it in here, and then I do things physically, right, with my body. This is our fueling center. And then the physical world is going to respond eventually and say, oh, this is good. This guy's good. He's got good content, or, what he's teaching is valuable. Yeah. And then, so that's, I think that was the overarching value.
Stephen Covey from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People says that you create things twice, first in your mind and then in the real world, which I think goes with what you're saying here.
Yeah, exactly. And it is that way. We know that. I mean, if we think, where was the first cell phone, the first clamshell flip phone? I don't know if you ever watched Star Trek, but that's where the first one was. That's with Kirk to Enterprise. That was a flip phone, right? Like that was a clamshell flip phone or whatever, right? So that's where it was started, like 1960s or 70s or whatever, right? So.
Yeah. Excellent. So what would you say, coming back to your coaching practice, like, do you see beliefs that people have that come often, and you were talking about reprogramming with reading, like what are some of the beliefs that you see often in people that limits them?
Well, it's an underlying belief, but I often see people that they don't feel worthy. So the self-worth is not there. They're not deserving of it. So they were never taught to go and ask and believe that they could expect something. So that's, I don't know if that's just a generation thing or whatever it was, but it'd be humble type mentality. But it's, you have to expect it, because if you don't, how are you going to get it? Because the expectation is actually a picture in your mind, right? So
how do you change that? How do you change this belief then?
Well, my way of doing it, or that I suggest doing it, and it doesn't take having a creative mind, but I created an idea that I call, or a model that I call expectation bridge. So it's basically a bridge. So think of the Grand Canyon, right? You want to get across, and it's like, oh man, that's a big hole, right? That's a big gaping hole to get across. Okay, so we're going to build a bridge. Great. Okay, well, let's pretend you have every capability. Let's pretend that you have crews of any kind. So would you build a bridge from one side or both sides and then meet in the middle? What's more efficient? What's more effective? Would you take a drone and fly over? So this expectation bridge is this idea. This is where you are, and then this is where you want to be. So I say create it in a bubble. Create that image in a bubble. What does that look like? What does that feel like? How will you feel? What are you going to gain from that? What's it going to change in your life? What are the people around you going to, start thinking about that? You start building a picture, a clear picture, vision board, or, a picture of what that looks and feels like, because you need to get to what? The emotions. Because if you don't get down to the emotions, then you don't feel it in here. You don't feel it in your heart. If you don't feel it in your heart, and I don't know if you know, through your research, we know that there's more neurons in the heart than there are in the mind. So we need to get into our heart. So how do we get to our heart? Well, we got to get through our emotions. Our emotions touch and, connect to the heart. So the expectation bridge is look at where you are, and then build this picture of where you want to go. And that's the contrast. And we always need contrast, because guess what? Once we're over here looking back, we're in appreciation. So what does that look like? Gratitude and appreciation, very powerful forces, by the way. I have a gratitude journal. I write it in every morning, a full page of gratitudes. Bob Proctor gave it to me. So,
Why do you do it in the morning and not the evening? Like I hear people do it in the evening generally after reflecting on their day. Why would you do it in the morning?
I do both actually, but the morning time is when I started doing this practice. So that's become a habit. But I write a full page in the morning because I have this nice journal I write in. But at night, I just write some shorter things. It's just like I actually focus on what I taught in my book, Living Life Your Dreams, which is what memories did I create today? So that's the question I ask. And then the memories have to do with my family, my friends, my clients, students, colleagues, those people, and then I jot those things down. So I am giving gratitude, but in a different way. In the morning, I actually listen to gratitude affirmation, an audio, and as I'm listening to that, and I go walking in nature. So those are the kinds of things that pop into my head, or it's whatever I'm thinking that I want to manifest. So those are the things I give gratitude for. So
I see. Interesting. Coming back on your clients again, so that was one thing. The other big question. So WePlan is a weekly planner that helps people manage their time priorities, and a lot of people who come to look for a solution are overwhelmed with life. Like they've got too much going on, both in quantity, like a pile of commitment, but also they've got a lot of different roles and they have to juggle all the balls that they've got in the air. How do you suggest people get out of that situation?
Well, the first thing I would suggest is to get clear on what they want. Some people say their why. Simon Sinek, know your why, right? What is your why? So, things like that. If you know your why, then that's your purpose, right? Then it gets clear as to what you're doing. Because I think a lot of people are so distracted with their technology and social networks and everything like that they don't know what they're doing. They're just looking for entertainment. And so I think that's one of the core things, is to know what it is that you want. And again, in my book, I'll refer to that, Living Life Your Dreams. It's actually, it's reverse engineering your life from death backwards. How do you want to be remembered by the most important people in your life? Michael Gerber wrote about it in his book, so I use that concept from his book. But then I also...
Stephen Covey as well has the same concept, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, death is the ultimate end. So it's like, how do you want to be remembered? Okay. So you start thinking about that. How do I want to be remembered by my family? I don't want to be remembered like for the workaholic or whatever. Like that's not good. So then you create that, and then you can track it. But also I planted on top of it the 5 F's: faith, family, friends, fitness, and finances, in that order. So faith, family, friends, fitness first. Faith meaning a faith in a higher power, or even faith in your potential. But that's the kind of thing that I think matters. So if you want to have control of your life, you need to know what it is that you're going to finish. If you're going to have a full and complete life, what is it you will end off with, so that because there's studies that show people that are in hospice, and the number one regret they have is not taking more risk and doing things that they would have loved to do. So I don't want to see anybody go there. So you might as well craft your life so that you get the things you want. Yeah. So that would be the first thing I would suggest. The second thing is from Andrew Carnegie. He hired somebody to help get his business organized. And the guy said to him, I got one suggestion: don't pay me, but pay me what I'm worth after. And so the suggestion was, set your intentions the night before. Pick 3 things, 3 biggest ones. If you create a list of 10 things, cross off the ones that are not significant, that aren't going to increase your impact or income or influence. Those are the ways I measure things. It could be influence or impact with your family. It could be the income for your family or yourself or your business. But measure it like that. And then you'll get clear. What are those 3 things? And have those 3 things as your focal point for the next day. Because overnight, what happens? Conscious mind shuts off, subconscious mind turns on, nothing in the way, it percolates, marinates, and that's what becomes your focus. And you end up dreaming about, I wake up with dreams in my head every morning, and they're usually about those things. So
I want to step back on the previous question, because I think a lot of people understand the value of knowing where you're heading, right? There's no point driving a very fast car if you're going in the wrong direction. Now, when you're overwhelmed, when you've got so many things to do, when you're stressed, most likely, it's hard to gain the clarity to know where you want to go. Like for me personally, the times that I've gained clarity is when I was in holidays, when I had a lot of time to think about what I wanted to do with my life, what I wasn't happy with, and that's helped me design the life the way I wanted it. How would you, what advice do you have for people who are in that situation where they're not in holidays, they are stressed, and they need to clarify their vision? Do you have an exercise, some tips? How do you do that?
Sure. Well, the first thing I would suggest is to get the things out of their heads. So I have a phrase that I use with my clients, and I say, thoughts become untangled as they pass through their lips and over fingertips. So as you write or type and speak, you untangle your thoughts, because this is where the problem lies, because we have memories and experiences and all sorts of things that draw, and that cause fear and doubt and so on in us. And especially if we don't know how to do something, that's the worst place to be, because then we start asking how. And if we ask how, we can crash and burn. So that would be the first thing. So it's just to get the thoughts out, whatever those tasks are and everything. And trust me, there's multitudes of ways. I use dry erase markers on mirrors, on windows. Not on walls. You don't want to do that.
So you basically in Getting Things Done from David Allen, he calls it the brain dump, where you try to put everything down, and you think of everything you might want to do, everything you have to do, and you try to think all the small things that may nag you when you're in the shower. Oh, I need to remember to fix this or that. You write it all down. That's first step. Is that correct?
Yeah. Just get it out of your head, put it someplace tangible where you can see it. If you have a whiteboard or someplace where you can write it, get it out there so you can see it for what it is. Because then you start thinking like, I'm wasting my time on that thing, or no, that's no good, right? And then you start realizing what it is that I really need to get done. And here's what I've done with my clients. I do mind maps. So a mind map is basically, put the project in the middle, branch it out. What are the major things? Branch those off, and then say, what do you need to start today to get this ball rolling? So if they have somebody like that, or a coach, or somebody they can reflect on that can help them get that stuff out and put it into a framework, because that's all they need. Chunk things down, right? That's the whole concept. I think it was maybe it was Dale Carnegie. I don't know. Yeah, he talked about chunking things down. No, it was Mark Twain. So yeah, chunk things down, simplify it, right? So because that's what happens if we don't. It becomes a huge jumble of information and nothing happening. The other thing I would like to, awesome tip is this. Instead of asking how, put the W at the end in front and make it who. Make it a who question. Who's done this? Who can I read? Who can I study? Who can I tap into? Who can I ask? Who knows who's done this? That's up the ladder of success that I can talk to and ask, because that's the easiest way. I've known people that have gone and met with owners of corporations, and now they have like a pretty significant toy company because they went and had dinner with the head of Mattel, right? And they asked. So yeah, put it, ask a who instead of a how question. Take things out of your head, chunk things down, and just start working on those things, simple things. I forget who said this phrase, but first things first, second things never. So you always put those three things first, and don't do anything else until you've done this. And that's the discipline. That's the hard part, right?
Who are the people you think of? Like, who are your personal heroes?
That's a good question. Because I study a lot of different people, but could they be dead, or does it matter?
Yeah. It doesn't matter. People you look up to, or you think, oh, how would they think? How would they do things?
Yeah. Well, there are people dead and alive that I actually do that, and I ask myself those questions. How did so-and-so handle this, right? So, but yeah, Napoleon Hill was one of the. I studied a lot of him, so I understand him at a deeper level. Joseph Murphy, another one, Raymond Hollywell, Jack Canfield, same thing. He's alive, so that's good. But because I can actually, I've met him and talked to him before, right? But it all depends on what context. If it's marketing, then I might think, who would what would they do in this situation? Or what I ask myself questions like this: what is my better thinking right now? What is, what's a better thought right now? What's a best solution? Because actually, this is a great tip. There's a part of our mind called the RAS, reticular activating system. And every time we ask a question or a question is asked of us, that part turns on and gets to work on solving the problem, right? And as soon as we get things out of our head and we start creating a plan, guess what planning is? Problem solving. Guess what habits are? Problem solving, right? So, that's why it's important to get those things out of our head. So you mentioned something earlier. Do I have any other practices that I do? So I would suggest people get quiet as well. And meditation isn't easy for most people. So simplify it. Go on YouTube, look up meditation. If you know the different frequencies, beta, theta, gamma, or whatever, pick one. Theta is a good one, right? Theta meditation, pick that. Go in a dark place, maybe a walk-in closet, right? Yep. Lay down, ask yourself a question, and then shut up. Just listen, and let it come. I actually have a purpose statement that came out of a meditation, like a full page, because I just said, what's my purpose? Years ago, right? And then I laid down a meditation, and then I quieted my mind, and that's the way I solved it. You can also do a Napoleon Hill practice. If you have a problem, write the problem down on a piece of paper, and if you want, just say a phrase like this: there's a way out, I'm going to find it. There's a way out, I'm going to find it. There's a way out, I'm going to find it. Keep telling yourself, and look at that thing. And if you want to do what Bob Proctor does, put it in the middle of the table, walk over to one side and say, okay, what's the solution to this problem? And then write something down. Go over here, different, and it's just shifting position that actually helps you solve the problem. What's the solution to the problem? You come over here and you're like, oh, this, and then you write it down. And then you go around the table. You keep going around until you have solutions to the problem.
Yeah.
And, but I know you're talking about overwhelm, so it's a little bit different, but it's still the same concept. But there's many things we can do, but the core thing is thoughts become entangled as they pass through your lips and over fingertips. That's why we have therapy, right? So you got to get those thoughts out where you can work on them tangibly, right? Like if you open the hood, if we open this up, there's wrinkles in there. Everybody has them. So we would not wear a shirt that has wrinkles in the closet. We'd take that thing, we'd iron it, right? So what do we got to do here? Rearrange the mental furniture a little bit, iron it out. And how do you do that? Get the stuff out where you can tangibly see it, and then you can modify it, and sometimes if you don't know, there's times I don't know. I have projects. I'm like, which one do I focus on first? I write them on little pieces of paper. I put them on the table. I start picking them randomly. It's not random.
that was a question I had actually, is like when you have to make this decision about prioritization, how do you pick the next? That's an interesting question, I think, for people who are using week plan. What should be their next action? How do you pick that? You just said random. I feel that there's a bit more than random into the process. Yeah.
Well, there's no random to anything as far as I'm concerned, just because I believe that we're energy in motion. We are. I mean, if we look at ourselves underneath the microscope, or they can actually take Kirlian photography, and it shows that we're, an energy field. So when we pick something, we think it's random, or when we pick a mate, we think it's random. It's not, right? There's nothing random about it. There's purpose. There's some sort of connection. So there's that way, but also, I mean, if we want to use logic to it, we would just ask ourselves, okay, what's something I can move towards right now that's going to cause me to feel good? I think that's the easiest thing to do. I mean, if it's going to be the hard thing, great. If it's not, that's okay too. I don't, eat the big frog first. Great concept, but I don't know. If you want to eat the big ugly frog and it seems like a challenge and you're ready to procrastinate on it, then don't do it. Find something simple to do to get the
nice.
The wheels in motion.
Nice advice. And that's actually something that I tend to apply in my own business as well to keep momentum. I found that when I have a side project and I haven't worked on that side project for maybe 2 weeks because I had to go in holidays or whatever, it's hard to get back into it. But if I just do some small tasks, maybe it's like working on the design or fixing some bugs because I'm a developer, I find that I don't lose the momentum. My thoughts are still in place, and I don't have that huge resistance in starting my project again. So yeah, sometimes it's better to do this less important task, but if that means that you keep the momentum, and when you have more energy, more motivation, you actually will have, you'll be able to do that frog, to eat that frog at some point.
Yeah. Well, let me also mention something else too. I recommend that people actually procrastinate on purpose. There's a book on it. Rory Vaden wrote it. And
what's the title of the book?
Procrastinate on Purpose.
Okay.
So yeah. And I've actually talked to clients and they said, I find that, during my day, I got to multitask, right? And I'm like, fantastic. Give yourself 45 minutes, give yourself a time block to procrastinate and to multitask. But don't do that throughout the day, because it's like switching channels. So my teaching is that, take the lower value things that aren't going to give you a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day. If you got to the end of your day and you said, oh, I didn't do that thing, and that was my most valuable, highest priority thing, and I feel bad now, that's not good. And that's most people today. They don't feel good at the end of the day because they did all the little things. They are reaction based. They let other people's agenda interrupt them, confuse them, distract them. And that's the problem. So procrastinate stuff on purpose. Somebody calls you up, like somebody called me the other day. He starts going on and on about stuff. I said, hey, look, I'm doing a launch. I can have this conversation, but not now. Right? Yeah. Very clear.
And that comes back to your tip of knowing where you want to go, because as soon as you know what is important, you will be able to say no more easily, because you know there's something else behind, and I found that this is actually quite important, to know why you're doing things, so that when someone offers to do something distracting to your vision, it's easier to realize it and to say no as well.
Yeah. And I'll reflect on the 5 F's. So if I say to myself, I want to create memories in these 5 categories, and then somebody contacts me and it's something new, and it's not going to help create positive memories in those categories, I can automatically say no. And I teach people to say no as easy as they say yes, because a lot of people say yes before they even realize how much commitment there is involved in that. And again, that's reaction bias, right? That's being reactionary. That's not being proactive. Proactive is have a list of things like I do here that I'm working on. Those are the only things I'm working on. If anybody interrupts me, I have to realize, okay, is it going to contribute to any of these things? No? Great. Nice to meet you. Nice to talk to you. This is something I need to talk to you down the road, not today.
And sometimes it might be that, yes, it's okay to have a chat with that person, because it might actually advance your, but at least you make the mental decision, you're conscious, you're deliberate about that thing. Where most people, like you've said, they react to what happens to their life, and they don't make that decision.
Yeah, they're reactive, and that's how they're living their life. So guess what? It's like, a train stop here, stop there, stop here, stop there, stop there. What gets done? Nothing. It's a bunch of stops all day long, dealing with other people's agendas and problems, and never focusing on the core objectives that are actually going to build your life or your business. And then you get to the end of it, and then you're like, what did I miss? Well, you missed doing what you loved. That's the problem.
Yeah. It's hard to, I have a son, and at some point I realized that I needed some time for myself to do the things that I love. And so we have on the fridge, we've got a weekly schedule about when I take care of my son, when my wife takes care of my son, so that I know that on Tuesday evening I can go and do something for myself without having to ask for permission, because it's time blocked already. And that has helped me a lot with doing things that I enjoy.
Yeah, and that's fantastic. And the other thing is, if you I always ask too, because I want to engage. So if my son say I want to go for a bike ride, then that's in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, a bike ride. Okay. So when are we going to fit that in tomorrow? Is it going to be at noontime? Because I do intermittent fasting, so I don't eat lunch. So I can do whatever I want for an hour, right? I can do meditation, which I do. And then I go for a bike ride. So then I start thinking about, okay, they want a bike ride. So that's going to fulfill my objective to leave a positive memory with them, and, or create a memory for me. Right. So, just chunking things out and calendarizing things and knowing what your pattern and rhythms are, because we all have patterns and rhythms. Right. and habits. Actually, I call it habit gap. If we don't know, what our habits are, then we can't get in the gap. But let's say we said, okay, I want to devote more time and attention to my family. Okay, so where am I burning time? Where am I using my time less effectively? Oh, I'm sitting here on social networks. Okay, or I'm watching TV. I had a client the other day, 2 hours a day. She gained back 14 hours a week, 600 hours a year. Yeah. TV.
So how do you prevent yourself from watching TV?
Oh, we don't have to. They do what we do. We watch maybe a Netflix movie on the weekend, maybe one or two or something, and that's about it. I watch YouTube programs with them. We got the premium, so we can watch educational mind. There's one called Mindfield. We watch programs. Oh, also Netflix, by the way, awesome show for kids and parents. The Kindness Diaries, and if you have never heard about it, the guy's traveling the world living on the kindness of others. The gas in his car, the food he eats, the places he stays, the water he drinks, everything. And it's an awesome show. I actually met him. I met him when he came into Toronto, so we got to meet. So Anyway, but so we don't have to do that with them because they don't get immersed in it. They've never been subjected to TV, maybe for a little bit, the older one. But then after that, it was just strictly Netflix and YouTube. So and they see what we do, so they don't want to go immerse themselves into all that.
So for someone who realizes that he spends too much time on TV, so it's already present in the house, it's there in the central place of the living room. How do you get out of that habit, especially when you've got family members who are used to the TV? How do you help the whole family get out of that?
I don't know about helping the whole family, but I have to start off with the parents, right? I have to start off with the leaders. So it's what they do, because everybody underneath them is learning experientially. So whatever the parents do, doesn't matter if it's good or bad, they do it. So that's where it'd have to start. So if, like the other day when I was talking with my client, I said to her, what can you stop doing that's totally useless, no value, and you could start doing something, you could learn something, or you could use your time wisely, or maybe have some meditation time. And she said, I watch TV. How much? 2 hours every night. I said, can you give it up? Yeah. Good. Okay, let's do that for the next 7 days. And you check in and see how well you did. Right? Yeah. But when I said, 14 hours a week, 60 hours a month, 90 hours or 600 hours a year, that hits home. It's like, whoa, 600 hours, that's 40 hour weeks. That's a lot of time, right? So, but it's just a realization.
Netflix is the new TV, like it's so easy to go on Netflix and you've got all this great offering, and maybe you don't spend 2 hours in front of the TV, but you're as likely to spend 2 hours on Netflix. It's a difficult temptation, same as social media. All that is really hard to you may have, I think the way I function is I have cycles where I'm very aware of the things that I'm doing that I shouldn't be doing, and I'm able to remove them from my life. And it goes for a few weeks or months, and then slowly it comes back. It starts creeping into your life. You've watched 2 movies in a row, rather like in 2 days in a row, rather than only once per week or something like that. Or you've reinstalled Facebook because you started marketing on Facebook, and therefore you need to be back onto the Facebook scene. And all these things start creeping again. And for me, I have an event often, discussing with someone or realizing that I'm wasting some of my time, and I remove all these things, and the cycle starts again.
Right. So, well, do you want me to comment on that? Because I've got some great ideas. So first of all, what I see happening is I call it habit gravity. So it's like, you've basically said, or you realize, oh, this is not good, right? So then you stop it, right? But you haven't made a commitment to stop it. Like you just said, okay, I'm not going to do it. It's not a full commitment. And there is a way to make commitments that I'm going to share with you in a moment. But so the idea is that, if you can see it for what it is, it's a habit. It's been a practice that you've done for a long time, and habits they're very sticky, right? And that's why I call it habit gravity. Like it'll pull you right back down. It's like, hey, don't climb that mountain, base camp is nice. Just stay here, warm, cozy, right? The comfort zone, right? So it's what's our comfort zone. And entertainment is comfort, definitely comfort zone. I mean, why do we have TV and series and all that? I don't watch any series, by the way, but, or any TV, but so that's it. But the easiest way to get out of it, and I'm borrowing an idea from a book called Atomic Habits, is just write a statement. I am, or I will do this, right? And that's it. I am watching Netflix only on weekends, 1 or 2 movies. That's it. Something like that, right? And you make that statement. And if you want to write it multiple times, you can if you like, but you don't really need to. You just need to write it once, put it someplace where you have it, put it in your fridge or something like that. And that's your commitment. And then at the end of the week, you ask yourself, you check in, journal, or just if you want to keep it stats of it or something like that, and say, okay, how did I do this week? Oh, look, okay, look, I got 5 out of 7 days. Solid. Okay, good. Right. And then it brings our attention to our results. It feels good, gets down to the heart, right? Which says, hey, I did something good. I feel good about it. I didn't waste all this time. I learned some things. I had meditation, free time, family time, time with my child, right? All that. And then it starts rooting you into a new practice. Because
actually, this moment of realizing that you've made progress, whatever the progress is important to take note of that progress. And you can see it in the meditation apps. Generally, the first session, they say, how do you feel after this session? Do you feel good, a bit more relaxed? And it's all to help you realize that you, like positive reinforcement, sorry. The brain will start being wired that this habit is a good thing for you, and you will want to make it more of a habit.
Yeah, well, because the way I perceive it is Joe Dispenza is a great scientist about this. Neurons that fire together wire together. So you need to keep firing and firing and firing and firing. And you may fire for 30 days. That's fine. Whatever it takes, you know, like I've done things that people would probably never do because I'm designed for discipline action. So I have a routine now that I've been probably doing for 3 to 4 years every day. And it's without failure. So it's walking in nature. It doesn't matter where I am. I will find someplace to walk. I do Tabata, which is this high intensity fitness. That's all I do. I just do a 5-minute warm up and then 4 minutes Tabata, 20 seconds of high intensity, 10 off, 20 on, 10 off.
What do you call it?
Tabata. It's out of Japan. It's Japanese research that showed that when you do 4 minutes of high intensity, like this high intensity, it's on and off though. It's the same as doing 45 minutes of exercise because you're pushing your body to the highest limit. And so, and I'm a marathon runner, so I know what it's like to do endurance, but, and I used to teach spinning, you know, I did all this high intensity stuff, but I shrunk it all down to 9 minutes of cardio. But these are the things. So it's like walk in nature, cardio, yoga, reading and writing in the morning, an hour and a half every day. That's my morning ritual, morning routine, morning pattern. But it just over time, it maybe started off as a half an hour, then it built up. And now I'm about 90 minutes or more. And that's what it is. And so, but it's just that pattern repetition, and then it becomes comfortable and normal. Also, for anybody who's trying
can I ask, how do you feel that with your family life?
Oh, easy. I just do in the morning, right? Like they're not, you know, there's no interference there. I mean, if I get up early enough that I can do it, but also my children are old enough that they can take care of themselves, do their own things. My wife also does she teaches yoga. So she does her practice every morning, 90 minutes, like 60 to 90 minute practice of yoga every day. And so she's doing her practice, I'm doing mine, and my kids get up and, you know, they start milling about. Next thing you know, we're done our practice, we're having breakfast, and then we go off for their day. But again, our kids are pretty disciplined. They go to bed at the same time, get up at the same time. They don't fight. There's no arguing, nothing of all that kind. We just develop habits and patterns, and you know, there's no resistance about it. So yeah, so that morning ritual, there's great books on it. There's Morning Miracle by Hal Elrod. There's awesome books. But I read a bunch of them, and then I borrowed a few concepts from them, and I said, okay, this is what I'm gonna do. I get up, I drink, I sit down, I write my gratitudes, I write affirmations, I do some reading, you know, I've already set my intentions for the day. I have a coach, so I send him my intentions. They are specific and time bound. So then I email him before that time comes to say it's done. So that's the way we handle that. So I don't have to, I don't have to think heavy about what I'm doing. I know what I'm doing already.
So you have a coach, and every day you send him the things that you're going to do during the day. And as you do them, you send him an email?
I do. Yeah. So I send it the night before. And then when that day comes, I'm obligated to send him a message. Sometimes it's afterwards, because if I get too busy, but I basically send him a message. The subject line is basically whatever it was, done, right? That's it. And so then hard commitment, that's it. Going to get it done, go to it, right? But yeah, the morning routine though is something that I've established over the years. My family, we're pretty well adjusted to each other as to how we do that. But like I was telling you earlier, my kids are homeschooled, so there's no real, there's no pressure. I mean, they start at 9 o'clock, they're up at 7, they have 2 hours, so they have 2 hours to do things, practice their piano or whatever. And so, but I think they see what we're doing and they're becoming self-disciplined too. And because they can see what we're doing and they see our commitment. And I talk to them about these things. I say, you look at Michael Phelps, do you think he just accidentally won 28 gold medals? No. He committed to 6 hours in the pool, 3 hours in the gym, special diet, no partying, all this because he wanted to achieve a certain outcome. And, that's the level of commitment that I play at, and I want my children to see that and learn that. So when I get up in the morning, they know Dad's on his track, right? And this is what he's doing. And then they want to join in. They're like, hey, can I come and do some, on the spin bike? I have a spin bike. They're like, can I come on the spin bike? Yeah, you can do it after me. Or can I do yoga with you? Yeah, sure. You can follow what I do. But that's it. And, but yeah, I just do things repetitiously. Like I've only recently shifted from 20 push-ups a day to 30. And so I do, for abs, I do 40. I do 20 of one set, 20 of another, and then 30 push-ups. And that's mixed within my yoga. Yeah. So you start adding that up, 20 a day, 140 a week, right? It's thousands over time, right? But that's the kind of thing that I do. I don't want to do like some people do, the crash course. I don't want to do that. I want to do little incremental steps. So
I think there's a book around that called Atomic Habits, which is about all the small things you can do, and over time it builds up. So you want to write a book? Well, write a page today, not a book. You write the few lines, but that momentum, that repetition that you build in will actually help do the thing that you want to achieve.
Yeah. He calls it habit stacking. You're just stacking the habits little by little by little by little, and that's what I'm really good at. I can just start off with something little. Now I'm up to an hour and a half or more, and I actually use an app called Toggle. I think it's TOGGL, and I time myself. So then I can see how much is my gratitude and affirmation practice. How long is that, right? How long is my time on the bike? I know my time on the bike because I do a 5-minute warm up and I read my vision statement while I'm doing it. It's 5 minutes. How much is Tabata? That's 4 minutes. I know it's exactly 4. That's it, right? I use my phone and my timer on my phone. So that's 9 minutes. How much is yoga? It's 11 minutes. I know. Why? Because I know my pattern. I go through it and I just do the routine. And so I know what I'm doing when and how much time I need to devote. And if I started late, I know I might sacrifice something, but, or if I play ice hockey, that might, be a different pattern that I go on because I know I'm going to do yoga afterwards. So,
yeah.
But
all right, I think we are going to wrap up. I think the people who will watch it will have a lot of things to learn from. It's awesome. I got a lot out of this discussion, so I'm grateful that you could come and spend some time with me. And I'm glad I met you. It's awesome.
Same here.
Thanks a lot for having been accessible. We've reached for you, and you've accepted. You didn't know us out of nowhere, so thanks a lot.
Yeah, and I'm checking out your app, so I'm going to check it out a little bit more and see how I can fit it into what I'm doing. But congratulations on doing that. I know SAS is not easy, or SAS. SaaS, right?
Yeah.
But I have some friends, even the guy Sebastian. No, wait a second, no. He doesn't have he doesn't have apps, but I know somebody else who does.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't know if there's.
Yeah. So Weekplan has the vision you were talking about, has boards for the brain dump you were talking about. It has roles for the 5 Fs that you talked about. And then it has the concept of big rocks, the put first things first, second don't get done. It has the same concept in there. You've got the concept of high impact task list, which is your intention for the week. Basically, you create your intentions for the week and then you block them into your calendars. So a few of the concepts you've mentioned are accessible inside Weekplan. So it's nice to see that you've got similar ideas.
Yeah.